Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's Talking Comics. We're going to talk some comics. We're going to talk comics from quite a while ago. These are comics from October 23rd, 2024. Should have been out last weekend. I got a nasty head cold that I'm still trying to get over. There was no way. And then I thought, well, I'll just skip it because I've skipped them in the past, and that'd be fine. But I really want to talk about the comics. So I'm not skipping it. I mean, I went back and forth all last couple days whether I'm going to skip it or not. So apologize in advance for my snorting that occasionally is going to happen, my occasional breaks for some better living through chemistry, and all of that as we go along through these books. It was a huge week. This is my big like 18 book week or whatever. We'll see what I have to say about books that I read 2 weeks ago, what I can remember, and what I feel like saying. Hopefully I feel like saying something because I really felt like I needed to say something to do this video. Anyway, now if you yammer, let's get to talking comics, right? First off, in no particular order, and I just talk about my books. I'm not my personal critique, not a review or of any sort or whatever. But you all know that, right? Casually me just talking about comics because that's what I want to do. I just want to talk comics. Hello, Darkness. This is issue number 4. There were some fun dark stories in this. What I really want to talk about though is the last story. The last story in every issue has basically been the Garth Ennis, Becky Cloonan story. It's been kind of a little ongoing, 4 or 5 pages each month, and it basically has to do with, it's the horror story for it is, well, maybe it's darkness, maybe it's not supposed to be horror, and it's certainly dark. Kind of the beginning of World War III, maybe bombs start getting dropped and people act like, oh, it's not going to happen, and then it does, kind of like we all to some degree act, right? Like it's no big deal. Well, it's a big deal, but nobody would really do that, right? Because nobody would start that because there would be no end and it would just be destruction of everybody. So why would anybody do that? Anyway, it happens. This particular issue was not horror for me. It was just, it was horrific. It was extremely dark. Like, oh fuck, kind of dark. In this issue, the attempt to deal with loved ones, especially attempt to deal with a loved one as you think they are passing, was extremely dramatic, and just really it shook me. It was oh geez, a good story. I wouldn't want to read a lot of it. So yeah, because it was super dark. But yeah, but I liked it. I just don't, I don't know what goes from here. I think there's one group, maybe 2 groups of people left in that story. I think there's only like one more issue of this, possibly. About the time I decide, well, it's not, I mean, they're okay. But, I don't need to keep reading these anthologies. Then there's a story, and one of them makes me go, oh, yeah, that's cool. That was worth, reading the other stuff, which wasn't bad. You had this gem in there. It makes you want to keep reading. So, yeah. I don't know. I'll probably keep getting it. Body Trade, issue number 2. I do not believe, I may have gotten issue number 3, but I don't believe I ordered issue number 4. Aspects of the art in this by Jock, J-O-K, that I really like. So I'm down for that part of it. Written by Zach Thomas. I still don't understand the obsession with this main character needing the body of his son. His son has supposedly passed away, and he's just so freaked out by a container of ashes or whatever. And I guess I get that in some sense, but I'm having problems relating or understanding the story with this guy's obsession. I mean, the stuff that's going on is terrible and cool at the same time. Basically, there's a company that's harvesting organs to elevate stuff and whatnot, and maybe they have somewhat shady practices on how they go about doing that. But our main character's obsession with just getting his kid's body back. I don't know. That to me is just seems strange, and so I can't really get into the book. So, Dead Eyes, Empty Frames, issue number 2. We get more of the backstory on our pieces of art, how they were swiped the first time, what has happened to them since, and then move us into the moving forward with Deadeye's plans to find those missing paintings finally and get the $13 million or whatever it is reward for retrieving those things. Of course, they're held by the mob, so there's going to be this whole problem with that. And there's some fun scenes in here. There's a scene in here where he needs to he discovers the paintings are at the person's house, and he needs to distract them. And he figures, what better way to distract them than to, bust up the grandson, put him in the hospital, and then everybody will have to go to the hospital to visit the grandson, and that'll give him time to go through the house and stake it out to find out exactly what's going on. And that kind of goes awry, funnily awry, or darkly. I thought it was funny. So still really enjoy the book. By and large, always getting it for the McCrae artwork. I like his style. I like his line work. I like his shading. I just like his vibe. So generally books he is on, I pick up. Issue number 2 of The Moon is Following Us. The book by Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rosmo. That wonderful cover there. Well, the split of the two worlds, as we've discovered. This issue spends more time showing us how we got to where we end up in the first issue. It was really wild. I'm reading along, and I'm like, man, because Riley Rosmo has a style, right? He has this kind of everything has a roundness to it, and a certain thickness to the lines that are straight lines. But yeah, I mean, everything, the mouth, heads, eyes, everything has a roundness to it, as my best initial description for Riley Rosmo's work. And in the beginning of this, I'm like, and it's in the real world. It's like everything's so kind of straight, and I'm like, this art looks familiar, but I'm just like, wow, it's like it's like, what is he doing? What's he doing to make his change his art style like that and whatnot? As I'm reading along, it's so straight, and I get that he's trying to represent the waking world, and so in the waking world, it's all this stuff, and I'm just like, and then it occurred to me about 4 pages in, wait, this isn't even Riley Rosmo. It's Johnson. It's Daniel Warren Johnson doing it, which, of course, I'm familiar with his art, too, from things like Do the Powerbomb and whatnot like that. So this issue is largely drawn by him. We get a moment of dream here that's clearly then Riley Rosmo's art, which I love. You get this brief dash into their daughter's sleeping world, which I dig. But just to give you, it was, I laughed at myself. I'm like, oh, you're foolish, just because of that change. Great issue to give us, because we had that first issue which had all kinds of crazy, exciting stuff going on, i.e. the way you hook your reader in, right? And then this issue gives us basically a large piece of the backstory to get us into what this is going to be about. And I'm super looking forward to the romp that it is going to be, especially with the Riley Rosmo art, just letting him go ham on some of these crazy characters and characterizations that are in this dreamy world that they're battling, basically for their daughter's consciousness. So yeah, very much looking forward to that and whatnot. Good fun. Next up, we have Hellblazer Dead in America, issue number 10. And nobody called me out on it, so I don't know if no one watches my videos or no one's into tarot. I foolishly said that this was the tarot card, the Fool. Well, I'm the Fool. Excuse me. It's actually the Hangman. Is what he is there. So John Constantine is the Hangman on the cover. You go look up what the Hangman represents. It matches well. I dig that. This was once again an excellent issue. We're rolling into the end. The next issue is the end of it. So here, the pieces all start to kind of come together. It's laid bare this challenge between, whereas we as the reader are being led along into thinking that, this is Constantine's plan. He once again is the manipulative bastard that might be doing right in the end of the day, but how much meat is he going to grind in the process to get to the end of what needs to happen? And as you're reading along, you're not sure who who is controlling themselves, who is making righteous choices, and who is all part of either Constantine or the the entities that are controlling the American narrative. Who is it that's making this happen? Is it the movies? Is it Hollywood? What exactly is there, whatnot. Really look forward to the last issue of this, seeing what the play is, seeing how it all lands. I really, really hope that 6 months from now, a year from now, we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more of this, and we're going to see it with the more Hellblazer, with the Vertigo logo back on it. These guys keep doing their work because they have such a handle on Constantine and the Constantine world and whatnot. Drop the Sandman banner. That's not needed anymore. It's he was never he was in the Vertigo world, but not necessarily tied to that. So you can move on to other stuff that's outside of the of the Sandman narrative. There was still stuff that was put down in the original of this stuff with this run that you can go back to explore whatnot. So I really hope, unless the next issue just is an absolute turkey, which I just can't imagine it's going to be, just really good, smart, interesting storytelling on everybody's part that's involved. Simon Spurrier, Aaron Campbell, and of course Jody Belair. Just great stuff. Really looking forward to that last issue, because this issue was excellent. It hit the notes. They understand what it's supposed to be. I always get frustrated sometimes when I hear other people talk about Constantine. They emphasize so much the bastard, and I really think that's a small piece of it. And I know some writers double down on that and whatnot. And I don't think that's the reality. To some degree, that's a facade that John will kind of act like with some people, and so then some writers just wholly embrace that aspect of it and not the other part of it. That is a shield for how messed up Constantine is, how much trauma the man has had in his life. Some by choice and some not by choice. Clearly, he's a person. He's made good decisions in his life, and he's made some bad decisions. And because of some of the stuff he deals with, those decisions are really huge. At any rate, go on and on. I really feel like these people have the voice down that I have. There's been other Hellblazers since then that I've enjoyed, but none of them have had the voice of the original intent of the character when back in, what was it, 85, 86, whatever it was, when the first Hellblazer hit the shelf and I picked it up and went when I was in my late teens, and I'm like, hell yes. This is comics. This is what I want to read. This captures the intent of that closer than anything else, without it being nostalgia, without it being going back and aping the stuff that was before it. Which sometimes people who love those old books, when they jump into the character, they just ape the stuff that was seen, better or for worse, with full intent or not knowing that what has already come, and that's, I don't feel like where we need to be at with any of the books. Give us something new or something fresh or whatever. In some sense, you got to add something to it. I mean, a lot of these characters have been around forever, so it's like every story's been told, but you should still be able to find a way to make it interesting and intrigue us. Anyway, get off of that. Next up is a Flash, issue number 14. Really, I was excited to see where we were going to go with Flash now that we're done with that huge event and whatnot. This issue was interesting for me from the aspect of I have not read any of the Absolute stuff. I didn't read that small event book and whatnot. So I get this issue. Some time has passed. Stuff has happened. Barry's lost his powers. So there's some stuff in there that was well informed to tell me about that and what's going on. Excuse me. I don't know that. I don't know if that was needed unless Barry is going to continue to be around in the Flash book as a non-power person, and that has some meaning. I don't know. He passes the ring on. I don't. That's all interesting and stuff. I mean, maybe that means something to big-time Flash fans. I'm not that, so it was fine. It didn't detract from the story. I just don't know. I'm kind of, was there a point? And maybe I just said what the point is. I don't know. They really like this issue. It's just fun. We're the Flash family. They're going on a Flash vacation that's supposed to be no powered and turns into clearly not that. They're going to deal with the Weather Wizard, but it's got other elements to it too, because they're going to War World on top of it, is where they're going camping at. So I'm excited for all of that, all the aspects and whatnot, and just this is the kind of writer that Simon Spurrier is. Simon Spurrier writes this book, which is much more. The original of the 13 issues definitely had some philosophical, darker, haunting moments to it. But this issue is much more in the vein of my mind of, hey, this is a superhero comic. We're going to do superheroes. This is fun. And of course, he also writes this, which is heavy and dark and manipulative and all these wonderful things that make that sort of story great. But he nails it here too, as far as the seriousness, if you take superheroes serious, but the levity and the fun that also goes along in a lot of superhero comics that make superheroes a joy to read is here in this also. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing what's next. I mean, maybe I like I said, I'm by no means a Flash aficionado. We get a new Flash comic, not comic, but costume. I don't know what people are going to think of that new costume with the black and stuff on it. I think it's also really great here that his daughter whizzes around her and points out all the aspects of the costume, what they possibly harken back to, the slope of the the ear thing, which is all great, I guess, nerdy stuff if you are a big Flash fan. I'm not, so it was fun to kind of inform me of why all those changes and what they mean, and that's all cool. I think the black and red costume it looks cool. I'm not invested one way or the other. So, but yeah, remind me while I take a drink here because I'm already getting scratchy. Chai, good for you. Next up, we have Convert. Story written by John Arcudi, art by Savannah Finley, Gonzalo Rodriguez on colors. I apologize. Scratchy's getting worse. Great Simon Gaines cover, of course. Really loving this book. In this issue, we get the real reason why this group of people are traveling there and why this one entity that's amongst these natives has rescued him and is helping him stay alive and teaching him some of the stuff that he's teaching him and whatnot. This entity that is not like the rest of the natives basically provides food because the whole planet is undigestible, basically. But they, through a process, can make it digestible, and that entity wants to be done. Basically, she keeps getting reborn, and she does not want to be reborn anymore. She's told our main character a lie, a story, to manipulate things in the way that they need it to, and that all comes about, and then shambles happens at the end of the issue, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm really curious, and I just really love the vibe and the feel and the conversation. These hopes and fears of the people that are in this, what it means for the passing of this other entity, and if they choose to do that and whatnot. The art is not, necessarily what you're, not anything you'd see in your standard, superhero comic and whatnot. It matches up really well with the story that's being told. And I'm really curious to see what happens in the next issue. Because these people have just lost the thing that was keeping them alive. And I'm just really curious to see what the answers to that is. Always happy to see the book. I don't know. I think probably, I would guess that next issue, issue 4, is it going to be 4 or 5 issues? Probably should look that stuff up before I start talking about this. But I have a habit, if I know there's an end, I start guessing as to what that's going to look like based on how many issues are left. But just really interested in where it goes and what goes on with these people and their lives, and just how complicated and this relationship amongst all of them, and how they've traditionally been doing these things a certain way, and somebody wants out of that tradition, and what kind of chaos that's going to ensue when people's entire existences are attached to that tradition that breaks. So next up, we have Detective Comics. This is issue number 1090. This is the beginning of a new creative team on Detective Comics. Tom Taylor and Michael Janin doing Batman. We just came off this incredible Ram V run of the book. So, how do you follow that up? You follow it up by just doing your own thing. And I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Janin's art always makes it easy to consume. For me, it's just easy on the eye. His work. And so it's pleasant, and so it makes it really easy to read, if nothing else, just for the visual aspects of it. As far as the actual story itself goes, we dip back once again to Bruce's parents, lessons that Dad passed down to Bruce, and how Bruce still applies those lessons to today, and how he addresses stuff, and how he approaches life, how he approaches being Batman, and all of those aspects, which is interesting. I mean, it's not new territory, but rarely are you going to cover literally new territory, with Batman. It's more of just exploring small corners and different thoughts and approaches on aspects of Bruce's life and Batman's life. And also in this, we get Bruce is tempted an old friend from his past is a biochemist, or runs a biochemist place, and it looks to be that this person has figured out a way to turn back the clock on people's cellular decay, and the whole idea, Bruce is always, and it says so in this, that he's always looked away from upgrades, getting cyberware or whatever, that he wants to stay man, needs to be grounded in that. But if there's a way that you could just boost your natural things to make himself younger, because he acknowledges that he's getting older, and after 30 knee surgeries or whatever, he's not as quick as what he used to be. To get some of that edge back would be great. So there's this there. So I'll be curious about that. And of course, it's comics, so those elements potentially are going to be maybe not good, or maybe that's part of the sinister stuff that is going on. Not sure who the bad guy is at the very beginning. I would assume it is with the needles and whatnot. I'm assuming that it is Scarecrow, but I don't know that for a fact. And there's some ties. There's some ties to Joe Chill in here, which I don't know if that's needed or not. But those are small criticisms of a Batman story when we're dealing with the subject matter that we're dealing with. But I enjoyed the first issue. Looking forward to it's straight. It's just a straight Batman book, and I like Batman. And I enjoy a good straight Batman story. So I am on with it for Tom Taylor, and completely different tone than the Nightwing book that Tom Taylor was writing. Whereas that book always, even when serious stuff was going on, had a levity to it. There's not levity here. It's serious. Batman's serious. Everything about it's serious. And so, yeah, good writing. And of course, Michael Janin. Excuse me, I take another drink. Sniff my sniffs. The final issue, book 5 of Zatanna, Bring Down the House. Amazing story, amazing art, just super fun all the way through. If you're looking for awesome eye candy, this is the book. You should be picking it up. I hear tell that Javier Rodriguez is going to be doing an absolute Martian Manhunter. It's already sold. As soon as I can get it on my pull list, it's on my pull list. The guy just does great art, and so this is we get our magic battle. Some great story in here. Z gets pushed back to the little girl, her little girl form in this, and they battle Dad and some demons, and some good stuff happens. It's just a lot of fun. Their versions of embracing magic, but like I said, the art in it is on fire. It is so good. He's got such a great style. And then the book ends with kind of an open ending, a winky, with the Justice League showing up at the end of it saying, "Hey, need some help? Want a job?" Which she has avoided in the book up until that point. So yeah, just really good, really cool. Very much recommended book. If you love bright, gorgeous art, it is there. It is absolutely there. Next up, we're going to talk the Sacred Damned, issue number 1, which there's only going to be one issue to the best of my knowledge because it's part of the Horizon experiment where people from different ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds are telling stories that would be considered the standard story, but telling them from the viewpoint of somebody other than, a white cis male, right? So this is basically the Hellblazer story, and it it nails it. It is so good. It is so interesting. I really, really liked it. I wish there were more issues. This is a book that I would jump on. I'd jump on it immediately. I like occult, supernatural, fight things in the dark books in it. I absolute 100% sucker for that type of book. This book does all of that, nails all that stuff great. Walsh's art, of course, is really good. If you've been reading the Silver Coin, he does horror well, and this is definitely a horror comic. It has to do with jinns and possessing people and stuff like that. It just tells this great particular story. Here's our heroine, if you can, just like Constantine, if you can name them as a hero. Yeah, it's good. She kind of turns the tables, and you think she's helping, she thinks she's helping this guy, and she's kind of helping herself too. And it does not go exactly as planned. It's kind of, no, this is not how this is supposed to work, and I'm going to get you next time, and really loved all of that. And so if there were more, I would get more for sure. I'm not sure if I'm picking up. I can't remember if I ordered Moondogs or not. I hope I did. But yeah, really, really digging these. I plan on doing I'm not sure if we'll do a video or if we'll do a podcast or what we'll do. I'm getting together with Eric from Longbox Review. We're going to look at pretty much all of these books and talk about them at some point here once they're all out and about. So looking forward to that too. And I'm sure I'll dive deeper into this and the others when that happens. But really dug that comic. You want just a kind of a one-off, and it is definitely a one-off story. If you find it set on the shelf somewhere and you like dark occult horror type stuff, and this one is Middle Eastern in its orientation, check it out. Speaking of other books that are excellent, The Power Fantasy, issue 3. We get the more backstory, more kind of history that puts some of these people in their places to help explain kind of where their positions are now with the world around them and with each other. Really super interesting stuff. I think they're planned for 25 issues, but Karen Gilliam has been having conversations with the artist, with Casper Wignard, about what happens in issue 35 and 65. So there's room for it, and I hope it gets all of that. I know this thing's like in multiple reprints, which is great. I hope that just means that the demand was exceeded what they were already planning to be, big numbers, because it's, the whole multiple printings is two signs. One, the book is really popular. That's the awesome side. Two, they screwed up and didn't make enough of the issues in the first place, didn't understand the demand because people weren't ordering it. So hopefully that all levels out. But hopefully that means good things. Hopefully that means that they're both happy with this. Casper's getting enough money up front because it's the artist that needs to be the money up front because the writer can write multiple things. Clearly, most artists can't. That whole aspect of how comic books work and whatnot, I hope it's successful for them so we can see a lot more. Because at this point, 3 issues in, I would love to see 100 issues of this comic. The world is interesting. The dynamics are interesting. I'm just curious to see what other monkey wrenches get into this. It feels like to some degree there's this incredible tension, right? That soap bubble that's there, this incredible tension, and the bubble almost broke, some stuff was done to rebalance it. But the question is, are people going to accept that rebalancing? And that's kind of where we're flirting with in the current timeline of the book is did somebody take something too far? Who was it that took something too far? And who's capable of making somebody answer to it and whatnot? One of our main guys who's seems to be morally just. That's partially what seems to be his superpower, maybe. He doesn't do necessarily the good thing. He does the morally correct thing, and sometimes that is dubious. It's like the whole, there's a train going down the train tracks, and there's that switch, and do you run over these people or do you run over that whole thing, that moral dilemma, and that this guy walks that line all the time, and he's they've made this huge choice, and so now we're gonna negotiate what that is. And I'm just really curious to see and some of these powerful people who are friends or friendly with each other, how far can you push that friend or friendly before you've gone over too far? This girl lifting the cow potentially is an angel. I mean, not like angelic powers, but is an angel. She literally, they show her being birthed and literally flying out of the womb and going, "I'm here to make the world better," sort of a thing. So she does the good choices most of the time. So yeah, it's just really, really interesting. And the book doesn't come out fast enough for how interesting it is. It's just, I read it, I finish it, and I go, okay, let's get the next one. Let's go. Kind of a deal, because it is really, really intriguing. Yes, very much digging that. And then we got DC Horror. I love the cover. It's a Tyler Cook cover. The covers are going to be, I think there's 4 issues of this, interlinking. The next one's got Batman on the cover too. It's all right. I mean, it's basically this one, it's the first one, has to do with the doll maker, which was pretty cool story. But it's just little horror vignettes that have to do with the superheroes. So there's one with the doll maker in this, and then there's one with Wonder Woman at the end of it. They're all right. I never expect a ton from these. I feel like by and large they're not going to move the needle too much on their flagship characters and whatnot. I wish they would, because these are kind of out of continuity sorts of things. So, but it was okay. As far as because I've been reading a ton of horror type stuff here lately. This was the least of all the stuff. So. My throat has about had it, and I am only halfway through. Oh my gosh. We're 40 minutes in. Apologies for being read this far. Nightwing, issue number 119. Starting of our new team, where it's Dan Waters, Dexter Soy, Veronica Galdini. I'm a big Dan Waters fan. I like most of the writing, his ideas. I like the stuff that he's done in the small corners of Gotham that he's been able to write so far, either the backup stories or the Gotham New World Order. That was excellent, where he's playing around with the Ten-Eyed Man and some of those other kind of odd stuff and whatnot. But this is, and he's written Azrael books that I thought were pretty good also and interesting. And this is just jumping straight into 4-color superhero comics, right? Especially after the last run, which is lauded by a lot of people as being really, really good. I'm really curious, though. I've seen a lot of people's videos or comments or reviews of going, oh, that last Nightwing was, fine and whatnot, but ooh, this is my Nightwing. So I don't know if it's the levity, the joy, the fresh facedness of the last run that they didn't care for, and this gets into more of the grit that is Bloodhaven and Gotham and that sort of stuff, and that's more their jam. The real mystery intrigue sort of thing that gets them excited about it. Or whatnot. Story wise, I really like it. It's got some of the basic elements that have a lot of stuff. We got this new character, at least new to me. I'm not placing them. They already know who Nightwing is, who Dick Grayson is, and whatnot. Sometimes that gets frustrating. We get the story awesomely takes off right after where the last stuff left off. The fact that that Heartless is gone, Blockhead is gone, so there's all these gangs that are trying to figure out how they're going to operate with each other, and so that's an interesting thing as the kind of power shift is happening, and Nightwing's going to have to deal with this power shift that's going on. While there's somebody in the background doing some manipulative stuff that you don't know really what that is going to, what that is about. So it'll be interesting to check that out and see what that's going to be. And then there's this other forward-facing element where there's a new company that's coming to town, and they're going to outfit, which the story feels familiar, Batman type familiar, like within the last 7 years maybe. That they're going to outfit the police department with these uber weapons to take care of more superpowered elements, which of course is a threat to everybody. Let's give the cops nuclear weapons or whatever. It doesn't sound good. And Dick Grayson is saying that, and of course, as Nightwing, he's going to go check it out and stuff. It looks like the public facing element might be attached to this character at the beginning of it. Time will tell exactly how that plays. I think by and large, Dan Waters has Grayson's voice pretty good. The chit chat between him and Oracle is a little weird. There's terms of endearment that I don't know. Seems strange to me. I mean, how many times does she call Nightwing Boy Wonder? Anyway, some terms of endearment that maybe are a little different or whatever. My big complaint, I guess, is I wasn't super excited by the art. The basic structure of the art and everything, and this is hugely subjective, obviously. The basic structure of the art and whatnot, the paneling, the page layouts, all that stuff works absolutely just fine. There's nothing that leaps out to me as a broken element or some weird tangent line or any of the gearheady things you can get into about sequential art and comic books, about what works or doesn't work, or whatever. And they're all there. I mean, there's no problems as far as that goes. I don't know. I'm not digging the art, and it's purely from a preference thing. And I've been stewing for the last because this is one of the first comics I read when I got this big pile of books. I've been stewing since then, 2 weeks now, 3 weeks, trying to exactly place what it is that I didn't. What about it I don't care for, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure I liked Dexter Soy's art in the past. Like I said, it's not terrible. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't know. There's some element to it. I don't know if it's the coloring or I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna keep reading the book for a while, but I'm not hyped to read the book. Whereas prior, I was hyped to read the book because I knew the art was just great. Just I love the fact that they give Barbara Gordon freckles in this. That's kind of cool. But I don't know. I don't know. Something about that part of it. So I'm not as excited as a lot of other people are. Um, I, I don't feel like it's a new era of Nightwing, or oh, this is the better Nightwing. I really enjoyed that last Nightwing. I don't dislike this Nightwing as far as what it's presenting, the story, how the character's delivered, and all of that. He's definitely Dick being Dick, as he's dealing with this kind of all these gangs trying to find a happy place and how he's going to work to make that happen. I'm digging all of that. There's just some element about the art that I'm not excited by. And like I said, it has to be, because all the working elements there, it has to be one of those things where it's just and I like a lot of different kinds of comic art, but there's just something about it that it's not doing it. So, bummed about that part of it. All right, next up we have Nullhunter, issue number 1. This is an Olympos saga. This is basically the retelling of the Trials of Hercules, is my understanding, is what the book is supposed to be. Written by Walsh, artist. Walsh, who's written some other stuff now. He's been doing more writing. That's cool. Always dig when our artists can do writing also. I'm a big fan of writer artists when they're doing all the stuff themselves. That's not the case in this case. Vargas on the art. I think that Curry is the colorer on the book. Not excited by that cover. But I really like the idea of taking the the classics, the Greek classics, and retelling them in some other era. In this case, it is, and there on the back, it's got Hercules fighting the lion, which is what happens in this issue. So I like the retelling of the classics set in, like, in this case, it's like a cyberpunk sort of a world. We do some jumping around in this that wasn't excited by. The artwork's kind of cool. There's the evil corporate element to it, which is standard cyberpunk affair. I dig that. I like cyberpunk stuff. Down with the evil corporations. But I don't understand. I mean, so he basically kind of tricked this guy into becoming who clearly had some problems, a lot of PSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome stuff going on. Ends up getting himself in prison after he kind of murders his family, it looks like, at one point while he's having a flashback issue. They tell him that it was bad software that was in his stuff. It really wasn't him that did it. He's not to blame. They amp him up with bigger, badder crap and then send him out to go after the people who supposedly did this to him. He has a Jimmy the Cricket that hangs out with him, who is a dead person who worked with him that was on his squad. So that's interesting. That's going to bring some weird elements to the thing. But he goes off to do this thing. He goes to this place, and I feel like it's not explained very well as to why he's going here. And then he fights this lion beast, which is cool. It was freaking exciting and awesome to watch that battle and stuff, and all kinds of stuff ensues. And then it's like he goes inside and smashes some crap, and then it's kind of goes back to the evil stuff, going, we'll manipulate him as long as we can, and then when we can't, we can't. There's a jump. There's a jump in story that I felt like there needed to be more there. It was loose hanging elements to give us a couple cool cyber fights. And I wanted there to be more than that. I'm going to stick with it for a while because, like I said, I'm a sucker for the idea. We'll see if it can get its legs under it a little better for me than what this issue felt like, as I remember it from 2 weeks ago. That was my main issue with it. Next up, we have Grommets. This is issue number 5 of 7. um, Still really digging this issue, really enjoying the story and whatnot. Lots of kind of flashbacky moments in this, not necessarily the party in itself or whatever, but just having to deal with they basically have to deal with abusive jocks in this and whatnot. And I certainly was not. I was not the athletic dude through school and through high school. I was definitely the skinny, nerdy drama club person. And so some of those elements in this, like, oh geez, yeah, I remember that. I remember that kind of attitude or whatnot. Just, good stuff, some great stuff in there. Just this kind of weird slice of life, a la 80s, a la Fast Times at Ridgemont High, sort of, sort of stuff to it. Just been really enjoying it. Get a real kick out of the book. Just a different kind of a book that has been fun. The Standstill. My criticism of the book continue to stand. This is issue number 3 of 8. By and large, I like the story. These giant double spread. Everything is a double spread. Seems excessive. Excessive where I don't know that it needed to be. I guess people are like, yeah, it's awesome because it embraces the art further and whatnot. And I guess I get that. It still seems excessive to me. We have some jumps of story here. Our guy who has this ability, the belt that lets him stop time and mess around with things and whatnot, is seeming less and less heroic and more just as bad as the people that he's wiping out. To me, it feels that way. And we get our person who created this whole thing in their garage with household chemicals making a new version of this. I don't know. There are some story elements I'm having a hard time accepting, which is silly because the main premise is there's a guy that can stop time and mess with people, and I'm okay with that premise. But how they get there, maybe I'm not okay with. It's fine. It's enjoyably light. And I'll probably get to the end. It's not anything that's off-putting or whatever. I am curious to see where it goes. But like I said, our character who seemed like a violent, really violent good guy, the violent part of it is becoming more concerning than the good he's doing, because he's starting more and more to be like people who have power suddenly have power over everybody. It seems you may have had good intent originally, but you seem to lose that good intent as you become as abusive as the people that you're shutting down, just in your own way. You're taking stuff to an extreme that's is not equal in exchange. So somebody's doing some minor offense, clearly take care of it if you got the ability to stop it or whatever. But if the minor offense is drumming their hands on a table constantly, the answer isn't to sever their hands, and that kind of feels like what this guy is moving towards. So interesting. We'll see where it goes. Next up, we have The Hunger in the Dusk. This is book 2. This is issue 3 of that. Just more really good fantasy storytelling. We're seeing the fallouts, the concern from both sides, which is great. The orcs and the humans about the fact that the orc healer just kind of abandoned her post, abandoned her duty. And what does that mean for the Alliance? What does that mean for them surviving this other threat that's coming to get them, which is why these two centuries-old enemies are attempting to band together. So they got to get that fixed. They got to spend less time dealing with that so they can deal with the actual threat that's happening. And how they're going to get that stuff fixed beforehand. And that's great. And then we get this kind of all, promised loves and who people are married to and not married to, and those kinds of elements in there, and the loyalties to those things all play interestingly also along the way. So just enjoyable to read every time it comes out. Always looking forward to it. G. Willow Wilson, pretty good writer. Pretty good. Yeah, I buy like 3 or 4 of her books, so obviously I like her. Chris Wildgoose, really, really like his artwork. That's another reason I was excited by the book. He did a great run on Batgirl. Was like one of the last things I read that I remember for sure him being on that I really liked. But yeah, so enjoyable stuff. And finally, we get to Wonder Woman. This is Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 1. I have no idea how long these Absolute books are going to go on for. I don't know if they're a temporary thing or this is like some sort of a permanent line. This is the only of the Absolute books I've gotten. Like I said, I'm going to get the Martian Manhunter based on the creator that's on it. That's the only reason I got this book is it's got Kelly Thompson and it's got Hayden Sherman. Huge Hayden Sherman fan. I've just been really curious to see where his work has taken him and where he's gone. I really kind of hope that his style has evolved and changed. I don't know how much of it is just they have fine-tuned their craft, or they've changed their style to be closer to what the general populace of superhero comic books want to consume. Because if you look at this book and you look at Wasted Space, a book out by Vault Comics, I don't know, probably been 5 years ago now. The style is, in a lot of ways, is radically different. I dig both. One thing that hasn't changed is panel layouts, how he chooses to chooses to do his panel work, or their panel work. I really dig. It's got, I guess you could say it's got a J.H. Williams element to it, in that J.H. Williams tends to play with the with the panels also. So I like those sorts of things. And so I'm always excited to pick up anything that Hayden Sherman's doing. I'm buying. It's pretty simple. I'm going to try anything, and then we'll see where the story goes or who's writing it and how this elements. Doesn't hurt that Kelly Thompson's doing the writing, because I really enjoy a lot of her work also. I'm a big Wonder Woman fan, really dig Wonder Woman, so I was curious to see what this is going to be about. Once again, going in, no idea what the Absolute thing's about. I know Darkseid did some stuff and wrecked some shit and changed some stuff or whatever. So this was billed like all the Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They were all billed as basically, oh no, here what would happen if these heroes didn't have these things? What would happen if Batman didn't have all the money and the butler and the blah blah blah? Well, all the stuff they named off in the Batman book was stuff he doesn't have right now. Batman in the current book doesn't have a ton of money, doesn't have Pennyworth, doesn't have all. So I was like, I don't want to read that because that's where he's at right now. Plus, I read a ton of Snyder stuff. I've read so much Snyder Batman. I'm not interested in reading any other Batman's. Not Batman. Snyder Batman right now. Though the Nick Dragotta artwork really had me tempted. Superman, he's without the farm, without the family, without the. I'm not interested in necessarily those elements. And Wonder Woman, getting to this book. Wonder Woman was billed from the solicitations that I read was, what would Wonder Woman be like if she didn't have the island, she didn't have Themyscira, didn't have her mom, didn't have the Amazons, didn't have any of that stuff. This other, and then there's pictures of her with this ridiculously giant sword. Anybody who listens to me talk, I am very much anti-Wonder Woman carrying a sword. There's no reason for her to carry a sword unless it is a plot-driven thing. That sword is something specifically to do with what's going on. Wonder Woman should never be packing a sword. It's ridiculous. She can punch for punch with Superman, basically. Why the hell would she need a sword? It just makes no sense. Anyway, so got her with a big giant sword in this. Okay, fine. This cool new version of her where I don't know if that's a tattoo or it's just henna or whatever it is. She looks badass. I'll check it out. We'll see. And her Pegasus is obviously some sort of hell horse. So read the book. This is one of 5. The last Amazon, one of 5. So there's 5 issues, I would guess. So there is a Themyscira. There are Amazons. All it's just basically she has been Circe has been told she can't talk about any of those things. Some stuff happened with the gods. The Amazons supposed to help protect the gods. It didn't work out, so they're punishing the Amazons or whatever. For whatever reason, they scoop up the Queen of the Amazons' child, and Apollo gives it over to Circe's. So Diana is raised by Circe's, who, of course, we all know is a quote-unquote evil witch. And she literally basically goes up the same, because it doesn't matter. Diana's still Diana. She still marches this good. She still has this compassion. She still has this stuff. I mean, she walks like a badass now. I mean, she's this, got this wicked looking armor and a big giant sword, which is cool. She throws down some magic, which is kind of a new element. But by and large, she's still Wonder Woman. She's still the same person. This book is amazing for the art. The art in it, the slow changes as she. I love this aspect of it, and I guess it's just the joy of Wonder Woman, right? This little lizard that tries to burn her, and she tells it, nope, that's not how it works, and it's all friendly to it anyway, because Diana is Diana. These running pages are awesome, as you think Circe would influence Diana, and she does a little bit, but largely Diana slowly influences her, and she goes from living in this cave and it being bleak to slowly, whether it's motherhood or it's just the influence of her, slowly develops into this thing. It's all visual. There's not a lot of this stuff. There's no explanation, no whatever to it. It's just a visual changing of stuff around it, and it's just really, really, really good. And then we get some awesome fighting at the end of it and whatnot, and we get some her embracing what an Amazon is, even though Circe can't say it, she can say it, and it feels like some sort of unleashing to be able to say that. Curious to see how some of those elements work and whatnot. Well, it looks like it's gonna be really cool, really exciting, cool stuff, and clearly you wouldn't be able to tell this kind of story unless you had her be in the Absolute. But the Absolute, though, doesn't feel like it's as divergent from the regular world as what is implied. But I'm sure there's aspects of the Absolute like I'm not getting. I mean, this is its own universe, right? The Absolute is, it's like Earth 2 or whatever. So, does that mean at some point these Absolute characters interact with each other? I don't know. People are all excited this week about Absolute Superman. Maybe it was a mistake not to get that Jason Aaron book. But like I said, as a whole, the Absolute stuff hasn't sounded terribly appealing. But maybe they're all cool. And so whatever. But I think a lot of what this makes this cool is the creators that are on the book, not necessarily the idea itself, but Hayden Sherman delivery of those ideas makes it a freaking cool book. So that was this week's worth of books. Hopefully tomorrow I'm still feeling well. I've got my other books read, and I'll be back and I'll talk about much fewer books that won't last like an hour, because I'm sure not a whole lot of you have made it to the end of this. And if you have, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking your time, which is precious, just like my time is precious, to spend listening to me ramble about books that I felt the real need to ramble about. Anyway, till next time. Talk to you later.